I don't have a nice AV presentation like Kumar over there, but I'll try my best. I'll talk about some of the opportunities in logistics and supply chain management and basically take you as to where we are in the industry in India and the future opportunities. The topic of 800 million was not known to me till this morning. So I do remember a few things from it which towards the end of the conversation, to the end of the presentation, I'll talk about. Basically, where are we in terms of global logistics? This is some of the students who are here would recognize the Porter's 5 forces model, and logistics is, as you can see, the first 3 sections in it. So very naturally, logistics, supply chain management is what creates value in terms of manufacturing. So what Professor mentioned earlier, that manufacturing and logistics are intertwined, it is very, very true. In comparison to the global logistics industry, which is about $900 billion, the US industry, sorry, India is only about $90 billion. So the overall percentage is extremely low. Now this includes all the transportation, all the warehousing, all the inventory costs. All supply chain costs are including as part of this $90 billion in 2007. Now it is estimated to grow about 8% CAGR for the next 3 to 5 years. The country is spending approximately 13 to 14% of its GDP on logistics cost. Now there are a lot of inventory losses that take place. There's a cost to customer service. There's a cost to warehousing. There's a hidden cost. There's a cost to pilferage. So these are all logistics costs. I think the biggest mistake that we all make when we think about logistics is that it is equal to transportation. Clearly, supply chain is not equal to logistics. Logistics is not equal to transportation, and transportation is not equal to trucking. So this is a very common misnomer in the industry and in the manufacturing sector as well. In terms of development of logistics in the Asia Pacific region, also India is fairly low in the emerging markets scenario, and of course that's due to a few factors like infrastructure, etc., which I'm going to talk about. So I'll come to the growth drivers for logistics. As I mentioned, the components of logistics include inventory, the losses, the packaging, the warehousing costs, and customer service costs. Of course, transportation is the biggest cost of more than a third. The major challenges that we are seeing that are coming up is, for example, introduction of VAT and the conversion of VAT to GST. That is going to happen in 2010. This is going to change the way we warehouse in India, the way that we transport products in India. Because of instead of having warehouse in every single state, you can have actually 4 or 5 warehouses, and you can service the entire country. And these warehouses would typically have to be much larger warehouses. Instead of that maybe 10,000, 15,000 square foot facilities that are there today. It would mean better control, better visibility of your inventory. Products, instead of moving from A to B only, it will move from maybe just to hub and spoke systems. So if there's a company that has maybe say 100 suppliers all over the country, and they're sending to 30 different warehouses, they would probably need to send it to only 5 warehouses. So it would lead to a consolidation in terms of the transportation networks, the distribution networks. And then if you look at the next stage, after that, to move to the district level, to move to the town level, that is the next 800 million people, I think then a different network will get created. So we expect that with GST coming in, the major changes and the impact to logistics will be very, very high, and which will also lead to a lot of opportunities. there is obviously a convergence to global manufacturing today. Today, there are a lot of customers that we deal with where they're sourcing from all over the world. There are retail companies today that, there's one retail company that actually sources almost 100 containers a month from China. And they're looking to grow this to 1,000 containers a month in the next 2 years. So the supply chain is no longer national, it is international, it is global. Simultaneously, we know of a lot of Indian companies that are exporting. Sukhram is a great example where they have offices in 7 continents now. They're exporting to 7 continents. So that would be another requirement. So networks are no longer national. One of the few direct drivers to logistics are a few sectors. These sectors have a very high propensity to outsource. Auto is one of them. The potential in this segment is estimated for the industry would be, today it's at about 34 billion rupees, and even though we have a slowdown now, if you take a 10-year perspective or a 15-year perspective, this industry will definitely grow in multiples in the next few years. Some examples like the Nano project. Now, it has actually shaken up the whole world in terms of cost structures. Producing a car for $3,000, lakh and a half rupees was unheard of. Now you can imagine the transportation cost of that. It cannot be 10,000 rupees per car, which is the normal cost for a regular car. So companies have to look at innovation there itself. We are one of the shortlisted companies, and when we studied the whole model for the nano transportation, we looked at all possible modes. Can we fit more than 9 nanos in one truck? Can we put them on a rail network? Can we put them on a sea network? Because earlier this was close to the eastern port, so we would put it onto a ro-ro vessel and then ship it to the west coast of India, and from the west coast of India bring some other cars. So the innovation that was required and is required in trying to actually bring down costs for something like the auto industry is going to be a huge growth driver. The other growth driver, of course, is going to be retail. Today, the organized retail sector is only about 3-4%. But if we look at the potential and we look at the next level where we're talking about the Kisan and the Haryali Bhandars, all those retail outlets at the village level, at the district level, that's a potential to reach. And even at the city level, the change in the supply chain will be dramatic. It would mean that a supplier like a Colgate-Palmolive or a Procter & Gamble or a Hindustan Lever today supplies to a chain of distributors, wholesalers, and then finally to the mom and pop store. They would actually skip this whole thing and move to the distribution center of the retailer. So that's a major change. That's going to be a huge growth driver in the future for logistics. Professor Vishwanathan has talked about agri already. The missing piece, of course, is the cold chain. But how many of us are really willing to pay that price for the cold chain? I did a dipstick study in my own home, and the only thing that I found that actually comes frozen are peas, mutton, peas, and of course ice cream. That's it. When you look at actual wastage, the wastage actually happens more at the farm level rather than once it comes to the city. Because I again did a dipstick study. I asked my car driver, how much do you pay for your tomatoes? He said, in the morning at 8 o'clock, the richest people buy it at 25-30 rupees. And at 8 p.m. in the night, the whole lot goes for 5 rupees. So it's not wasted. Nothing is wasted once it comes to the city, to the town level. So are you willing to pay for, instead of 25 rupees, double the price? So that is that balance that would be required, that requires an Indian solution and not just copying something from outside. The logistics will be very critical here as well. Of course, the ultra mega power projects, the large infrastructure projects, all of these are requiring huge amount of logistics. We're talking about movement of very unusual and very heavy duty, over-dimensional kind of cargo, which is the country has never seen. Imagine one item which is take a windmill, for example. It's huge in terms of length, 70 feet, 80 feet in length. Take a boiler, it could be 400 tons in weight. Now these have to move on Indian roads, which incidentally do not exist in many places, especially in where these power plants are coming up. So there is a huge requirement for logistics here as well. This is a problem area. Today the external environment doesn't support logistics, which means that there are a lot of opportunities. And as again Professor Vishwanathan said, even if the infrastructure doesn't exist, it doesn't mean that we can't do logistics. There are approximately 6 ministries in the government which deal with logistics. Ministry of Surface Transport, Ministry of Railways, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Ministry of Shipping, Ministry of Commerce, and I think we'll soon need a Ministry of Logistics also. And of course, we have the state borders. Each border acts like a country. We did a survey where we sent a truck from Calcutta to Bombay. It stopped about 23 times for toll and 26 times for documentation. And the average speed was about 11 kilometers per hour. If the truck went non-stop, it took about 7 days. That's a standard truck. I'm not talking about a truck with 2 drivers or something else on it. So it's a huge bottleneck. When we talk about the infra side, there are no logistics parks in any industrial zone. Where SUCAM has their plant in Baddi, I went there about 2 months ago.